Well, lasso my cornbread and call it brunch. Donald Trump just made a bigger fool of himself than a rooster at a duck wedding. That's right, folks. Trump made an early exit from the Pope's funeral, and he didn't even pretend to be sorry. He bolted out of there faster than a greased pig at a county fair, and somehow the media just kinda shrugged. Now, before we soak in today's fresh batch of stupidity, let's remember, this ain't Trump's first time treating solemn world events like his own personal pit stop. You might recall when he wandered off at the G7 summit like a man looking for the restroom, or when he shoved a NATO leader out of the way just to get a better photo op.
The moment going viral as President Trump shoves his way to the front of the line. Here it is again in slow motion. The president puts his hand firmly on the guy in front of him and pushes right past him.
Because clearly that is the move of an old high school athlete, which I believe Mr. Trump was.
It happened at the summit meeting of NATO allies in Brussels as Western world leaders were about to pose for a group photo. Trump wanted to be front and center. So who's the guy who found himself in Trump's way? He's the prime minister of tiny Montenegro, population 620,000. Now, the viral moment is making headlines like this: America first.
Diplomacy with Trump is like asking a bull to fix your fence. Wrong creature, wrong instincts, wrong tools. And let's not forget Trump's favorite hobby besides crime and grifting, screwing the little guy with tariffs so bad that even his own people had to speak up. Gary Cohn, remember him? Trump's old economic advisor? Basically said Trump's tariff plan was like setting your own house on fire and then charging your neighbors to watch.
The other thing we need to understand about tariffs, and I think this is obvious, is tariffs are highly regressive, meaning that poorer people end up paying a disproportionate percentage of the tariffs because they spend 100% of their paychecks on goods. So they're going to Walmart, they're going to their stores, they're buying goods with their paycheck. Wealthier people save a bigger percentage of their paycheck. So the tariffs are going to affect the poor people more.
Poor folks are getting whacked at Walmart while Trump's busy buying gold toilets. But back to the holy mess in Vatican City. Trump shows up at the Pope's funeral looking like a discount Elvis impersonator. The dress code said black suit, black tie, black button. Trump rolled in wearing a blue suit so bright he could have guided ships into harbor. He looked less like a world leader and more like the weird uncle who shows up to Thanksgiving in a bedazzled NASCAR jacket. And just when you thought it couldn't get any tackier, bam! Trump pulls an early exit so fast you'd think he spotted a buffet across the street. World leaders stayed to honor the Pope. Trump stayed just long enough to snag a selfie, check a box, and sprint for Air Force One like it was the last helicopter out of Saigon.
Donald Trump rushed out of Pope Francis's funeral early, just so he could make it back to his New Jersey golf resort before the end of the day. According to the New York Times, Mr. Trump told aides he wanted to make it back to his golf resort in New Jersey before the end of the day, prompting a stunningly brief trip that lasted only 14 hours on the ground. His first overseas trip as president left no time for discussion of his tariffs on the European Union, his turn toward normalizing relations with Russia, or his insistence that Europeans must take far larger responsibility for their own defense.
Why the hurry, you ask? Was it urgent diplomacy? A national emergency? No. He wanted to throw a birthday dinner for Melania on the plane. Nothing says romantic evening like soggy chicken parm at 30,000 feet, served by a guy who just spent 6 hours flying the President of the United States to a funeral he couldn't be bothered to finish.
Rather than using the gathering of world leaders to push for peace or repair strained alliances, Trump treated the event as a photo op and a box to check. Even a 15-minute meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, described by Zelensky as a good meeting, where they discussed a full and unconditional ceasefire, was cut short. Plans for further talks were abruptly cancelled, with a Ukrainian spokesman blaming the very tight schedules of the presidents. Though reporting makes clear it was Trump's personal urgency to return to golfing that ended diplomacy prematurely. Upon landing back in the United States, Trump and Melania immediately parted ways, despite it being her 55th birthday.
Now, partner, if you're enjoying the hot tub truth bubbles, make sure you tap that subscribe button before Trump files another fake lawsuit about dress codes. You don't want to miss a single dunk, y'all. Meanwhile, back on Earth, while Trump was mainlining Diet Coke and microwaved steaks, real leaders were having real conversations about Ukraine, NATO, and keeping the world from slipping into full-blown chaos. But Trump, he cut his 15-minute meeting with Zelensky shorter than his marriage vows. Couldn't be bothered to stick around for actual peace talks. Man had more important things to do, like yelling at his golf caddy and posting unhinged rants on Truth Social. And speaking of that, after ducking out of Rome faster than a snake from a brush fire, Trump hops online to tell everybody Ukraine is Biden's war, not mine.
Later, Trump tried to distance himself from the Ukraine crisis altogether, posting on Truth Social, "This is Sleepy Joe Biden's war, not mine," while simultaneously criticising Vladimir Putin for shooting missiles into civilian areas and threatening vague new sanctions. Meanwhile, Trump has spent over 25% of his first 100 days golfing, even as the US economy continues to crumble, and his approval ratings have plunged to the lowest level for any president in more than 80 years. At a moment when leadership and statesmanship were desperately needed, Donald Trump chose instead to sprint for the golf course, abandoning allies, diplomacy, and any shred of presidential dignity in the process.
Buddy, you were the guy who tried to shake down Zelensky for dirt in the first place. You act like the Ukraine crisis just fell out of the sky while you were busy playing the world's saddest fiddle. Newsflash, if responsibility were a horseshoe, Trump couldn't hit the barn from 2 feet away. But wait, there's more. This clown show keeps on giving. When he lands back in the good old USA, he doesn't even stick with Melania on her birthday. Nah, he peels off faster than a sweaty sticker at a summer fair. Imagine ditching your wife right after dragging her halfway across the world to watch you embarrass yourself in public. Real smooth, Donnie. Real alpha. So let's tally it up, folks. Disrespected the Pope, disrespected Ukraine, disrespected every American hoping for even 1 ounce of dignity. But hey, at least he respected the lunch menu on Air Force One, right? You know, sometimes I wonder if Trump's only real belief is that every moment on Earth is just a trailer for his next scam. Funerals, wars, diplomacy, none of it matters if there ain't a crowd clapping and a camera flashing. Man treats world history like it's a Mar-a-Lago dinner theater performance, and he's the only one who thinks he deserves a standing ovation. Thanks for floating with me in the tub, y'all. Keep your jets hot, your minds hotter, and remember, when it comes to Trump, if there's a wrong move to make, that man's gonna cannonball into it head first every single time. Stay soaked, stay woke, Buck Jacuzzi out.